There's only one episode left after tonight, and
no,
it is what it is.
No,
you know, I'm happy to have gotten what we've gotten, so I get it. I don't want it to end, but we got the Mandalorian now.
That's true.
You know, we have the second season to look forward to. Thank God it's been renewed. But let's talk about it. So we did do a reaction video for this one. I know we've only done one others, but we were home because my kids didn't come home. And so we did not go to my father's like usual.
Yep.
We watched it at home and we said, why don't we record it for you fine fellas? And so you can see our reaction to everything as the show went on. All right, so as we always say before we start this, we have played the games multiple times, and so we will be comparing the games and whatnot. All right, so let's jump into it. So we start this episode with David as the cult leader. Now, as far as this episode goes, like, you know, compared to the game, it is, outside of maybe episode 2, I'd have to really like watch them back to back to be able to like tell which one is like more faithful. But like episode 2 was the most faithful, I felt, where it was like almost nothing was different. Minor changes, of course. The ending is probably the biggest change, right?
Sure.
So this is probably the most faithful then, because Tess does not blow herself up and a bunch of infected don't swarm them like that.
Right.
This one, they do cut things out, but what they do is like
shot for
95% the same. It's a really
remarkable,
real shot for shot episode. So anyways, so I would say episode 8 so far. We'll see what episode 9's like. So the opening is different, right? And this is just added. So this isn't different.
Right.
This is just, we're expanding upon, because we have that ability with a show. We get to see kind of behind the scenes of other characters, what they're doing away from our main characters that we're playing with. And so we get David. He is preaching the word of God to these people, and it's bringing them comfort, and he is doing his leader thing. So this is different. Okay, I have to keep retracting that. It's added. Right? There's nothing really that different about it.
You just get more context.
That's it.
Yeah.
The actor that they cast as David, he's great.
He does a wonderful
he looks
job.
Nothing like David in the game.
No, but oh my gosh, his performance was really solid. I hated him.
Sure.
So much.
Sure.
But yeah, he doesn't look anything like the David in the game.
No.
Which is fine.
Totally fine. Yeah, David in the game has longer hair, and it doesn't matter. He's not a ginger.
Yeah, he's not a redhead, so there's that.
But at the end of the day, I don't care.
No.
It's about the performance, and the performance is great. I mean, and you're following up a wonderful performance, right? Nolan North from the Uncharted franchise, who plays Nathan Drake, is who does the voice for David in The Last of Us. And the Uncharted franchise is my other favorite franchise, and I love Nathan Drake. So North is incredible, and his performances always feel that way in at least Naughty Dog games.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, great performance here. But moving on, we get back to Joel and Ellie. They are in the same place as we left them at the end of episode 6. So they're kind of still stuck here, because obviously episode 7 is a flashback episode, so not much time passes in episode 6. We only maybe get like 10 minutes of time in in the current timeline in that episode. So yeah, she needs to go out and get food, because she's realizing like they're down to nothing.
Oh my God, literally nothing.
They have no food of any sort. And so she goes out hunting. Now, in the game, she uses a bow and arrow. Right? And in this, because Joel taught her how to fire a rifle. This is what she uses instead. No big deal. This is, of course, cut down dramatically from the game. You chase it forever.
Yeah,
you don't want to do that in a show.
No.
Right. And then we come upon David and Troy Baker himself playing the little sidekick here. So it's great to see Troy.
So good.
He looks gaunt.
He does. He looks like a starving survival man. Survivalist?
Survival man.
Survival man.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
They did a really good job on this. I don't want to get too ahead, but there was a guy who Joel kills that you were like,
oh my god, yeah. The one of the henchmen that goes out hunting for Ellie, he was terrifying looking.
Yeah.
When he's dying, like, just the look in his eye and, like, the blood in his mouth and on his teeth, and he's got this, like, cadaver grin on his face. So scary.
He looks like one of the Joker's dead victims after the gas.
Oh. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was great effect.
I think, okay, before we go blow for blow, you guys watch the episode. The important things to talk about here are this. So, in the game, we play as Sarah first. She dies. Then you play as Joel. And you play as Joel for about 10 hours plus to this point, right? Joel goes down, winter, and then boom, you're Ellie. And you're like, oh, whoa, I'm playing as Ellie, which is ironic and kind of, or no, I shouldn't say ironic. It's funny because of the second game and how much you play as Ellie in that. But this is the very first time you ever took control of Ellie, and you were like, oh, okay. And Ellie is challenged with something here. And what I love about this, I love about it in the game, but I really love about it in the show because as much as I'm attached to the story in the game, and I really am, we flesh out so much more of the drama and the connection of the characters and what it means in these scenarios. It's a little bit, the game, it's as real as it can be. But because we get to spend more time with these people, it becomes a little bit more human. And so, like, Ellie is faced with something here that really relies on the rest of the show. And what I mean by that is that Ellie needs to take everything she's learned from Joel, right? We get this in past episodes where Joel falls asleep and he wakes up and Ellie's standing guard.
Sure.
And she's like, no, it was good. And he's like, you need to wake me up. And she's like, I went over here, I checked this, I didn't do that, like you taught me, right? And she's been spending months and months with Joel. And so now, she has him on the ground, he's dying. She's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do without you. Like, you can't die. Like, I don't know what to do. But now she's faced with this. She does have to survive without Joel, right? And so we have this subversion of expectations that comes because we know Joel is the hero. We know Joel is the one who's going to come and save Ellie. Joel's the one that's going to kill the guy, right? He's going to stab the guy as he's crying for his mom and whatever. And Ellie's the one that's going to hide behind the wall because she's a little girl and she's afraid. And Joel's the big, tough superhero. And in this episode, we get this idea. He tortures the guys. He gets the trail. He's going into town. He's got the guns. He gets her backpack. He's going to be the hero. And it's like, this would have cut Ellie's journey so short in the sense of like her journey as a character, her character arc. Yeah. Ellie has to defend herself here. Ellie has to kill David, right? Because this is where we're leading to as a character.
Right. Yeah. As her ability to be violent and brutal in self-defense as well as out of, kind of anger and vengeance, right? Like the way that whole scene at the end with her killing David is so emotional and so intense. And I love Bella's performance, like, because you can really see the snap in her face.
Yeah.
Like, in her eyes after she's, like, kind of comes back to herself once he's dead. And it's just, like, a totally, totally new person now. Yeah. And it's terrifying, because where we go with Ellie's story, especially in the second game, like, there's a lot of ramifications of how, she's able to embrace violence.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for her, fortunately and unfortunately, this is kind of a double-edged sword here, so to speak. The reason that David kind of falls for her, is that she's the first person that he's encountered that he can see himself in.
Yeah.
Right? And and Ellie doesn't like this.
Oh, of course
right?
not.
Of course not. Because
he's a monster.
David is a monster, but so is Ellie.
Sure.
She has to be to survive in this world. Joel's a monster too.
Yes.
And that's really kind of what this story is telling, is like, only the monsters survive.
Right.
And Ellie has to kind of embrace what a monster she is while trying to reject this notion that she's like David, but unfortunately she is. And this is what makes him want her, right? Because Ellie comes out and she puts on the big voice. Step away from the guns. Like, she's trying anything she can to be intimidating, to be Joel, right? Like, that's her Joel voice. This is how she's gonna get these guys to cooperate with her, because she's a girl. She's a little girl. She doesn't expect them to take her seriously, and they, probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
And and Ellie is really she thinks she's in control here, but really very little of the time is she actually in control, because when dude runs off to go get penicillin or whatever, you bring back 10 guys and it's over. Yeah. Right? He decides to come back alone, and he pulls a gun on her, and it's David. Yeah. That's like, lower the gun. They had the drop on her. She was finished. The dude could have shot her. What's his name again? I forget Troy's.
James?
James, you're right. Okay. He's like, James, lower the gun. He would have shot her right there and then. He brought the drugs because he asked him to, but otherwise he was coming there to kill him, and he wanted to kill her. We see that,
yes,
right? When he shoots the horse, which is different from the game, but we'll get to that. She goes to the ground. He comes over, completely ignores David's request to keep her alive, and he's going to kill her. He wants vengeance. Everyone there wants vengeance, but it's because of David's attraction to her in so many different ways, right? I don't know if David is like into little girls or not. I would assume
we get that impression from what we see with
the girl on the table.
Girl.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't know if it's just because in this world he doesn't see anybody like him, and it's because Ellie embodies this kind of person. We can tell, though. I can for sure say he's a rapist, and that's what he likes. And when he goes onto Ellie, and he's like, it's the fighting that I like, right? Yeah. Like, that's what I'm assuming he's mentioning from before is like, I'm a violent man, right? When he's talking to her in the jail cell, is that he was a rapist. That's what the impression that I get is before society collapsed, he was a rapist. Sure. That's what he got off on. And now he meets Ellie, and I don't know if he's into little girls all the time, or if he's just, into Ellie because she embodies that, like, the killer instinct that he likes. Regardless, I don't know. It doesn't matter. He's a piece of shit, yes, regardless.
Yes. I like what you said earlier about how only the monsters survive, because I think it ties in with the dialogue that we get from him that's new to the show about the cordyceps.
Yeah.
And about how they multiply and they can be violent when they need to be, and that they love and all of that. And we're kind of seeing that the people in the world that do survive the best are the ones that are violent and are kind of not really giving into their animal impulses, but what's the word? Resorting back to more base instincts.
Regression.
Regressing back to. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also alluded to in this jail cell scene as well that David doesn't even. This is how I took it, and you guys can tell me if you took it different, and so can you. I'm not. The impression that I got from what David said is that he doesn't even believe in what he's preaching. He's preaching this stuff because that's what they believe, and that's what makes them comfortable, and that's what makes them follow him. But at the end of the day, like, he more believes in, like, protecting his colony and doing what's necessary, and he's a violent man, so that's, like, his first instincts. But when he talks about the religious part of it, he mentions that they're the ones that find comfort in it. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that need it. And that just, to me, came off as, like, because he says he didn't find God until after the apocalypse. That being said, I don't know. Would he not just outright tell her? Because he kind of tells her everything else. So maybe he would just be like, I don't even buy this shit. I just tell them what they need to hear. Mm-hmm. But I kind of got this feeling that he's not somebody who, like, believes in what he's preaching.
I think that he uses God as, like, a means to an end. I think that he is, like, one of those people that, like, if he felt guilty about anything, he uses, like, the word of God to make himself feel better.
Right.
But yeah, I do think that he's obviously manipulating people with religion because they are finding comfort in it. But I do think that in a sick way, he believes in it. And I think that him comparing it to, like, the cordyceps, I think it's more like God as nature, and nature is violent and brutal, so therefore I'm justified being the way that I am because I'm just trying to survive and protect my flock. Mm-hmm. That's how I took it. But yeah, he's not, like, an actual Christian, like, a good person at all.
Of course not. Of course not.
Yeah.
I guess, I think when he talked about that, I got kind of the impression of that, but I also got that impression of kind of what you alluded to there, is more that he more worships the cordyceps more than God. But I think this might be semantics, because I think at the end of the day, he either sees the cordyceps as God or a vessel of God.
Yeah, I think it's, like I was saying, like, nature is God.
Right.
Like, it's...
Exactly.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason. The cordyceps, therefore God is, like, the cause.
Which is basically, as I said, semantics.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You either think God is the cordyceps, or God's, using the cordyceps. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing, pretty much. So yeah. Also, we get the moment here. I don't know. We jump to the end. Okay. Joel wakes up. He has to kill this guy with a crazy face. And then he goes out and he takes down these two guys and he brings them back. And he interrogates them. And the interrogation scene is almost identical. I mean, it's like word for word. Everything's exactly the same. As I said during our watch party, the only thing is he kind of, like, slaps the guy in the face and he's like, look right here. That's pretty much the only thing I noticed, like, almost any difference of at all.
I know, yeah.
Now, when they look down at Silver Lake, right? That's what it's called?
Yeah.
There's, like, a little dock and everything. Dude, I want to see the game when Joel comes over the, like, horizon line and he sees Silver Lake down there.
Yeah.
And he sees, like, the little dock. I don't know if this is just, like, maybe the game based this design. I want to see them side by side.
Well,
because
I
they swear
locations for the game, right? So it's totally possible that they might have used that location as, like, an inspiration for the design in the game.
Sure, but I feel like a lot of games just make things, right? They're like, just make a town. And then people are like, I'm going to put a dock here and this and that. So I swear, though, from my memory of the game, which is pretty damn good, I feel like the just the view of it, the way we see it, is exactly the same. The dock out there on the water and everything looks like it's in the exact same place. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I need to see them side by side. But if that's the case, did they use a location as reference for the game that then they showed in this show, right? Or B, did the game create something and then they had to work with visual artists to recreate the town but make it look real, because we know, which was shocking to us, that in episode 7, that, you know, the very last episode, that the mall, we thought it was all practical. The whole second level is completely CGI.
Yes, yeah.
And it looks
it's a single
legit
story mall.
Real.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I couldn't tell at all. I'd have to go back and watch it now with that information.
Yes, and be like looking for it, but no, it looks pretty much flawless. I had no idea. It does look
flawless. I thought for sure it was a mall. I just accepted that it was a mall.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. I'd be curious to find out. You know, interested to find out about the location.
We'll look. So, anyways, yeah, and Ellie being in the cell, breaking his fingers, screaming, Ellie, you know, tell him a little girl named Ellie broke your fucking fingers.
Oh my gosh, her performance is seriously incredible.
Yeah,
like.
She's terrifying.
She's terrifying. And that's what's so great about it, because, like, she is a little girl. Like, you feel this, like, empathy and sympathy for her because you want to protect her, like Joel. But then you also see, like, what she's capable of and what the world is shaping her into. And just seeing that path that she's going on is, like, oh my god, like, it is super scary.
Yeah. So, in the game, there's a body on the table. In this, she just finds it, like, with her eyes, finds an ear under the table so she can, like, figure out what's going on here. So a little change there. And then she confronts him about it. Now, in the game, she does eat the food that she's given. In this, she kicks it away immediately. I actually prefer this. I feel like, as hungry as Ellie is, it's her principles.
Yes.
Where she's like, I'm not eating this.
Yeah, she doesn't trust them. She doesn't know them.
Right. She's not going to risk it
Yeah.
when she thinks that, because he's like, oh, it's deer, I swear, and she's just like, you know, immediately starts eating it, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. She's really hungry, so in the game, I'm like, I don't know, man. You might start eating humans eventually. I mean, look at the guys from you know, the movie Alive, or the real story of the soccer team that crashed in the Andes. Like, you get hungry enough, you'll fucking eat anything. Not
me. I've always, like, held that, like, if I was ever in a situation where I was starving and the only option was to eat human, like, I would not do it.
If the human was already dead and I didn't kill him,
I don't think I could do it.
Then I could.
I don't think I could stomach it. Like, I don't think, even if I, like, could convince myself, like, this is the only way I'll survive, I feel like my body would reject it. Like, I don't feel like I'd be able to actually stomach it.
I could do it. I could do it.
We talked about this before. Like, if we were in that situation, I would be the one that would sacrifice myself so you could eat me to live.
I don't want to eat you. So let's not do that. Okay. I have you, and I have my kids, and I have too many things to get back to. Now, would I kill someone and eat them? No. But if someone was dead, would I eat them if that was the literal only choice and I knew, like, I had a better chance of surviving if I did? Yes. But I wouldn't be happy about it.
You'd be like, oh, wow, this is amazing.
All right.
How could I have not tried human before?
Right. No. So, anyway. So, yeah. So then she gets out, and she's going to be chopped up into little bits. And she bites David. Now, I always wondered, from the game to now, right? So I've had 10 years to ponder this. Would Ellie's bite infect you?
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, in the show, we see his hand. And typically when we see the bites, right, we see little tendrils of cordyceps kind of in the infection when you get bit. I didn't see any of those in David.
No.
So my answer is no. I don't think so. Because I feel like if that was the case, Ellie would just be a walking infection. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Having sex with her would give you.
You couldn't do anything with her.
Yeah.
Really.
And I just don't think. I think whatever's in her, like that, is dead. But we know from playing the game where it lives. I just don't know I don't think it would. I don't think it would be in her saliva. I don't think it would be in her.
It's not transmittable that way.
Yeah.
And plus, he gets bit on his hand, which is a pretty quick. Like he would start, it would start affecting him pretty quickly.
The hand is ours.
It's ours?
Yeah. Mm. It's the head, the neck and head we see on that chart. That's like 15 minutes. Then the hand should take hours.
Okay, so he dies before he would even be showing anything.
Yeah. If she bit him on the neck or the face,
yeah,
I feel like he dies too quick even for that. He's dead within 5 minutes of her biting him. Sure, yeah. So I don't think he would have ever even changed. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I highly doubt it. So yeah, she tells him she's infected. They stop. This is actually the trick they use in The Hobbit. They got parasites in their tubes. Anyway, that's true. Yeah. And so yeah, he puts the knife down, checks her. They both kind of freak out. Yeah. And we say goodbye to Joel. How much did Troy Baker sound like Joel in this episode? A lot, honestly. But, like, he did and he didn't. Like, if you were just listening to his voice and not, like, I don't know. It's interesting because he shows much more emotion in this in a different way than Joel does when he's acting as Joel in the game. Plus, he has a deeper voice when he's doing Joel and a little bit of, like, a southern drawl, like very minor in there, so yeah, but it is his voice, and so yeah, it was great. It was really great that he was in most of the episode too. He was in a lot of it. I'll be curious to people's reactions to this episode because I have a feeling now they did cut out like 99% of the action once again, right? And this is becoming a tad tedious to me. To constantly be like, oh, we're not going to get that. Because Ellie and David fight off tons of infected. Yes. Joel kills tons of guys once he gets to Silver Lake. Mm-hmm. All that kind of stuff. All gone. Mm-hmm. All gone, right? You're running around through the snow. Ellie's out in the snow, freaking running away. She gets into the, restaurant. But in this, she just goes right into the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. Do I wish there was more action? 100%. It's my major gripe and pretty much my only gripe with the show. I just want to see it. That being said, like in the game, there's a snowstorm that hits, and this is what covers a lot of like noise and tracks and whatever. Mm-hmm. But I just think it would have added a little bit more to Joel if he was, and also to the audience's anticipation of like Joel getting to her and maybe like getting into a little bit of a fight. But I think what this show always takes into consideration, and I'm fine with this because it is a grounded show. Mm-hmm. It always takes into account realism, right? And the reality of the situation is a couple things. Number one, Joel is severely injured. His mobility is for shit. And in reality, if he moved much, he would tear his stitches and he'd be back in the same place as he was before, right? Number two, he just woke up from random amounts of penicillin given to him within very short amount of time. He is barely able to even be conscious. Oh my gosh. So not to mention no food. Yeah. For days. So the fact that he takes out 3 guys that's enough. I mean, do I need to see him take out 5, 10 more guys? Because as I said before, in the game we get this whole fight right at the college in Colorado. Joel takes out 50 fucking guys, right? And then he falls on the rebar. They go, he goes down. They stitch him up, whatever. In this, they make it 1 guy, not 50 guys. That's realistic. Yeah. Joel can only fight 1 to 2 guys at a time physically. Mm-hmm. I don't care. The kung fu movies and all that shit always make it seem like the more badass you are, the more guys you can take on. And that might be true to an extent. But once it gets past a certain number of guys, I don't care who you are. If you're, John Matrix from freaking Commando. You can't take on an entire army by yourself. It's just not possible. You're going to get clipped. There's snipers. There's all these things, right? They never take these things into account because they're action movies and people just want to have fun.
Yeah.
But this show is trying to live in reality, right? With cordyceps, which is real, right? But regardless, this is obviously a different version. That being said, what I'm trying to say is that him taking on one guy and getting injured and running off from 3 other guys as they're shooting at them is realistic. Him taking out 3 guys while he's sneaking up on them is realistic. Him shooting at a bunch of dudes in town when no one is hearing it and no one's coming, because this is a whole town of people and they all want vengeance. They all want Joel dead. They all want Ellie dead, right? And so David's the only one that wants Ellie and Ellie alone dead. Or alive, I'm sorry. And so Joel getting into a bunch of people, fights with people in the snow and all this stuff, it's going to attract the attention of the entire town, right? So that's realistic. And Joel can't be that mobile because he'll tear his stitches. He can't make that much noise because he'll attract too much attention. So to me, and plus there's probably the I don't know how much it would cost to put in a storm. Probably not that much compared to like how much this show already costs.
Yeah.
I'm sure they could have done that no problem. But regardless, I think that they did what they wanted to do as far as like the realism of it. Ellie needs to kill him. Joel can not really do a lot.
Yeah.
They can't make that much noise. So this show always chooses to just be as realistic as possible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I got the game. If you want to action,
Right.
go play the game, right? The game is 90% action.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, and it's just as a way to move the story along too. Because if we spend all this time doing the action sequences, like the episodes would need to be much longer than they are, and they're just not. So it's...
You could put in 2 minutes of action.
I mean,
right?
you could.
And it wouldn't,
of course.
it would be a lot.
But if we did the similar amounts of action that were in the game, it would increase the episode
Oh,
length, of
sure.
course.
I don't want that
But,
much.
I think, as you said, it's very realistic, and I definitely appreciate that from the show. And, also, as you also said, there's the game, for all of the action parts. So, plus, I mean, the next season, I don't know, things could change. Like, maybe they will include more action in the next season. It's possible.
Sure.
So
I'm really
I just
hoping...
want to see more infected. That's kind of the big thing for me. I think that I would be okay with minimal action, but I really want to see more of the infected because I feel like we just have gotten not much of them. And I think that they are a much larger threat in the game, and part of that is because it's a video game and you need an enemy to attack. But I also feel like the fact that there are all these different types of infected gives you so much to work with in the different environments, and it would make being out in the world and traveling in the world very dangerous, while also having to keep an eye out for the other humans that are out there still.
To be fair, and I think that this is important, like in reality, the infected would stay where the people are. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the places we're dealing with are out in the middle of nowhere. And out in the middle of nowhere,
that's fair.
There would be very
But when they're in the cities, right? Like
sure.
when they're in the big areas.
And that's where we get the big infected scene, right? Where they come out of the ground and there's 1,000 of them, right? So that's why that's there in the Kansas City QZ and then the other infected that we fight are right outside of Boston, right? So all the infected we don't see are all in the rural areas, and all the infected we do see are in the big populated areas. So it makes sense. Would I have liked to see like a frozen clicker against a door as Joel has to rip it apart like in the game? Yes, of course.
Yes.
Right, like that kind of stuff. Or would I have liked to have seen the scene where Ellie and David have to fight off at least a couple infected, not a bloater, just because they're pretty much like stating that they're indestructible in this show. In the game they're not, but in the show it's like, how do you beat this thing? I do hope that we get to see someone fight one and beat it at some point in this series, because I don't see any place for it in the next episode. In fact, I don't think we're going to see infected again in this show.
I mean,
because the next episode doesn't have any, as far as the game goes.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, well, okay, that's not true. There is some. Actually, there's a fuck ton of them. Uh, there's two bloaters.
Yeah, but with with how the show has been going, I don't know if we'll see them.
Sure, no, I don't think that Joel and Ellie will be fighting a bloater
there's
alone.
Still infected in the game at this
I would like
part
them
of the
to,
game.
though, because then that gives you kind of an oh fuck, they're screwed moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, sure.
So we'll see. Anyway.
We'll see.
But yes, I would have liked to have seen Ellie and David fight a couple infected. You know, he pulls the gun that he's had hidden, right? And then they have to kind of trust each other. And then this more sells like, is David a guy you can trust or not?
Right, when they're fighting side by side.
When they're fighting side by side. That's where in the game you fight a lot of infected together.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, maybe this is a good guy because like everyone in the game that you meet up until that point, they end up being good people, right? Henry and Sam, and you know whatever. These people that you run into, they're fine, like they're good people. And then in this, it's like, no, he's not a good guy. But I would have liked to have seen them fight a little bit together, just because that would have bonded them even more and shown off more that Ellie is the killer.
Right.
That he seems to like, but he can tell just by how she's holding him hostage and all that. But yeah, so and then we get Ellie breaks down, and then we get her. Now here's another realistic moment from the game and the show. So in the game, Joel comes into the restaurant. This doesn't make any sense, because Joel would have had to have broken in, and nobody hears him come in, and he just comes up behind Ellie and grabs her in the restaurant. She can't get out of the restaurant because David has locked the place up, and he has the keys, right? So in the game, Joel comes up behind Ellie, grabs her, and then we have the exact same scene we have outside. In this, it's Ellie escaping herself, which shows... Once again, it shows that she's not only defeated her enemy, but she's escaped, right, from her prison.
Yeah.
Right? So this is great imagery.
Yes.
Because her breaking free of the darkness and the fire and coming out into the light, and she's done this on her own, makes it's visually good. It's visually good. It adds to her character arc. It's visually symbolic of her of what she's just done and her journey. But it also makes perfect sense because Joel doesn't have to get in there, right? How would he have gotten in there without her noticing or hearing or anything? So her coming out and him grabbing her from behind in the snow makes way more sense, and once again sticks to the show's attention to this needs to make sense. And I think that's always what Craig comes at Neil with, is like, well, how would Joel get in? And this and that. And he's kind of the me, probably, and is like, well...
Sure. Well, especially because you're translating it to film, you know, so you need it to make sense. You need it to, like, you know, not be as convenient as maybe in a video game it could be.
Yeah. And then we get a couple big moments here. Number one, we have Ellie, who is forever changed. She's broken. She has this look in her eye of just like, she's finally went there. Yeah. Right? Like, the first time she killed someone she loved, right? I mean, we can only assume the first person she was referring to was her killing Riley. Yeah. You know, although at that point, Riley was probably changed. So she didn't really kill a person. She just killed someone who was a person that she loved. Yeah. Then she shot someone in the back and wounded him, and Joel took care of the rest. She technically got him killed, and she paralyzed him too, which is really sad, and adds to the horrendousness of the situation. But anyways, this is the first time she's had to really kill another human, like full on, and she brutally does it. Like when she goes and she becomes the monster that David says that she is. Like she doesn't like who he says she is, and then she becomes who he says she is, to defend herself, right? And she comes out, and we see she says she's broken. We see that, you know, Ellie will never be the same again, and this leads into her character in part 2 for sure. Yes. And Joel does something that is now the complete shift, right? The total embrace. He calls her baby girl. Yeah. Right? Which is what he calls Sarah when she's dying. Right? This is his pet name is, or not pet name, his nickname for his daughter. And he calls Ellie this. This is a big moment. I think that, fans of the show who have watched this 8 weeks apart and maybe don't understand that moment, but baby girl is Sarah's thing.
Yes.
Like, this is a big moment in the game.
Yes.
This is a big moment in the show.
Yeah.
Baby girl means something. And it's a very quick line here. But when it's said, it's Joel fully embracing Ellie as his adopted daughter.
Yes.
And this means a lot for the next episode. Mm-hmm. So this is very important for what happens in the next episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, outside of the action being cut out, everything else is perfect. I have really no complaints at all. I just wish we could get, maybe Joel took out one or two more guys, and, Ellie and David killed a couple infected together. Mm-hmm. But is that realistic? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. And it just adds to the runtime for something we've seen already. Joel killed 3 guys. We've killed infected. Like, been there, done that. The only thing that I think that it diminishes in this show is the threat of the infected. But I think what they're always trying to say is what every zombie show is always trying to say is that the real monsters are people, right? This is taboo at this point. This is like a cliche to even say, but it's true. And
absolutely,
this show, as I said, I think, but it's doing a good job because you're still on episode freaking 5, Endure and Survive in your head, where these, hundreds of freaking cockroach type things are coming out of the ground, like a horde of insects. And it's like, the threat's there. Mm-hmm. They're still there. And when they get into a city, that's when you need to start being afraid. And when they're on the outskirts, it's like they're few and far between, right? So it makes sense. It's just kind of like, I think that there's going to be people that are like, is this a zombie show or not? Like, am I, like, there's going to start not fearing the zombies or the infected as much, but actually that might add to it because you're letting your guard down.
Yeah, maybe. It's definitely like similar and different in some ways to The Walking Dead, and I haven't watched all of The Walking Dead, but I've read all of the comics, but where, the zombies are always there. They're always in the background at least. Like, even if they're not the immediate threat, like, they're a part of the world that they live in. So they do still kind of like, have influence on what happens. And it doesn't feel like the case with how this show is going. Because you are forgetting about the infected. And as you said, that could be a good thing as far as, the viewers letting their guard down. So when something really crazy happens with an infected, they're going to be like, oh my God.
Yep. So that's that. I think we said everything. So next week, the last episode, the season finale, when you're lost in the darkness.
Look for the light.
Look for the light is the name of the episode. Mirroring the title of the first episode. Or so I had read. I'm pretty sure that is the title.
It's not the last episode.
Because IMDb doesn't have that official on there, but I think the HBO did announce that was the title of this. So it makes perfect sense. Because they are now looking for the light. And the trailer for next week's episode shows almost nothing. But for everything we saw in the trailer, it is following the game exactly. So we'll see. And until next week, endure and survive.
Endure and survive. Bye.